Community singers. That's we've got a good system here of how to start the service to put us in this mode of inspiration for transformation. So as we start this morning, let's just get comfortable in our seats as we prepare for meditation. Short meditation that we'll do just to center ourselves and to bring this awareness of who and what we are and how we live and move and have being in this consciousness that we call the divine, the Christ. So just begin by, again, closing your eyes if that's comfortable. If not, you can half gaze out in front of you. Just be comfortable. Comfort is king when we're meditating. Whatever you need to do to be comfortable, whatever position you need. Put your hands on your lap, either folded together or face down on your thighs, and begin to breathe. Relax your shoulders, and as you begin to relax, take a deep breath in, and then fully release. Another deep breath in. And then exhale and fully release. Let's do one more breath together and then we'll continue on just normal breathing. Inhale and then exhale. Move your awareness to various parts of your body and just do a check-in to your body to see if you're holding any tension or stress. Either clenching your fist, tightness in your shoulders and across your back. And continue to breathe. And turn your awareness to this sense of peace that lives and moves and has being in you. No matter the chaos in the outer, when we pause for just a few minutes, we can find peace. And as a metaphor for that peace, imagine a bright white stream of light entering the top of your head, flowing through your body and then resting at your heart space. This light is the peace that we wish to see in the world. Bright, shiny light. Bringing you peace first, and then we can radiate that out to the rest of the world. So as we continue on the meditation for just a few moments, just to be still. That's the purpose of what we're doing here, is just to be still. You might try this mantra if it's comfortable for you, or whatever can keep your mind focused on this light that comes into your essence, the essence of your presence to bring peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The Sanskrit word for peace. 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 If it's comfortable, you can hold that in your awareness as we rest in the silence for just a few moments, with this idea of light bringing peace through the top of our head and then radiating out from our heart space to the rest of the world and to those around us. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. In the silence. In the silence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Represented by this white light that's moving through your body right now. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So take a deep breath in. Begin to return your attention to your body and to this time and place. Wiggle your fingers and toes if that's necessary to bring back your awareness. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and we'll begin. There's a few meditation teachers that I listen to on Insight Timer that use that mantra, Shanti, 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 for peace. I don't use it all the time, but at times it can be very, very refreshing. So as Rose says, we continue to do this theme of spiritual wisdom of pets. We've had some great talks about that in the month of October. Been some tears, and there may be a few today. So in this book, Reverend Bronte Colbert talks about her pets a little bit, and I'll share that in just a minute. But Rose mentioned this, what came to me when Melissa asked me to speak for her, because she was a little under the weather and wasn't sure how she was going to be feeling. So she said she was going to be listening on Facebook today. So for Melissa and others watching on Facebook, welcome. But this verse came to me when, matter of fact, I walk around with Unity ministers are supposed to have a sermon in their hip pocket for just in case. And so I don't have it in my hip. I think I may have it here in my notebook, but so what I talk about in the crux of things, if something urgent, is unity and science. A religion without science is not a valid religion to me, because most of the history of religion, either they weren't aware of the science of the universe and of who and what we are, or they ignored it. Actually, they killed people for it. They punished people for it. Didn't want people to know that the science was out there. So I usually have that as a backup. But so this came to me. I'd been talking. Melissa reminded me that that's what we're doing, and she had some notes prepared to bring the lesson today about playfulness of pets. Well, I read the chapter in the little booklet. If you don't have one of those, there's some in the back, and or they're out on the lobby, I guess now, aren't they? Yeah. And you can also download that, and it's really interesting. It's really a great, whether you have pets or not, there's great stories. So this Bible verse came to me, and it kind of pushed me away from talking about science to talking about play. And anytime I can talk about my pets, I'm game. So it's almost as bad as showing a home movie of your family if you've got pets. If you don't have pets, you may not understand that, but if you own pets, you'll understand. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. So that's what came to me. Just bam, that verse came to me. I hadn't looked at it in years, and don't frequent Ecclesiastes in the New Testament. I had to refresh my memory where it was. So chapter 3, verse 4 continues, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Little editorial here. I wondered what the literal fundamentalist people say to that when they say a time to dance. I wonder what that means to them. I don't know. So anyhow, this verse continues to explain that life, as Rose, there's a rhythm about it. There's 8 different verses that follow that, and there's all kinds of things. Some of them don't apply to us, clearly don't apply. But while not explicitly listed, we know, we forget it a lot. There's a time to play. And I say the time to play is now and always. There's always a time to play. Always. So it's right now and it's always. And there are no better teachers to teach us how to play in our playfulness than our children and our pets. So I would add to this Bible verse, since I can, a time to rest and a time to play. So even in periods of uncertainty and chaos, which we're going through right now, I remind you that there's always a time to play. And as the scripture hints, there's laughter and dance with our pets, with our family and friends. We can find time to play and improve. I think it improves our mental health to reduce worry and stress and anxiety. And I know many of you have got that as we've moved on. We've got that down. A lot of you play pickleball. We play bridge and card games at the Senior Citizen Center, and it's a good thing to play. I mean, there's whatever you do to play. As Rose reminds us, one thing to do would be to play less on a screen if we can. I don't have any games on my phone or on my computer. No games. Doesn't mean I don't scroll too much, like a Google and think of a question and ask. But I don't play any games on it. Not saying that's wrong. It's not wrong. It's just, we need to do it in moderation. One of the things that our pets remind us to do is to enjoy our playful nature, slow down, and have a little fun. So that's from Reverend Bronte Colbert. And she talks about her dog, Mr. Pancake. She says, for 12 years he was with me, and that little dog added immeasurable joy and playfulness to my life. And he shared it with others. He'd run up to people at the beach just to wag and lick and say hi. You can just picture that. He loved hikes and dogs and dog parks, the games we made up, and the playfulness with his stuffies and toys. Charles Fillmore in Mysteries of Genesis says, playfulness in spirituality is seen as joyful expression of the soul's growth and a sign of spiritual health. It reflects the lightness and happiness that come from living in harmony with divine truth and the unfolding of spiritual consciousness. If we're not playing, according to Charles Fillmore, we're not unfolding in spiritual consciousness. Now, I know it's a challenge to do that these days. I mean, it's a challenge to get out of our. I mean, that's part of what there's so much mental anguish and angst and going on in our world today. It's not easy, but we can do it, and we can do it by playing. So what started me thinking about this is, how did you play as a kid? How did you play as a kid? I remember my mom would send me out of the house and say, come home before dark. Come home before dark. Now, some of you that are a little younger than some of us probably don't remember that, but that was the common thing to do. We rode bikes all over the place, my friends and I, all over. Now, my sister, I asked my sister about this, and she probably didn't have as much leeway as I did. But we rode all the way I was growing up in Chattanooga, had cousins everywhere, and we rode all the way across the other side of town. Sometimes we'd stop in whoever house we were closest to and get a bologna sandwich. Sometimes it'd be fried, or we'd even get a Spam sandwich and fry it. I'm still here, so we ate that. I'm still here. We'd stop at an empty field that was close by my house, and we'd either come up with a baseball game or football, play football. Again, get home before dark. That was the only criteria. We rode our bikes just everywhere. There were no cell phones. There were no screens to draw us inside the house. And if we got thirsty, we drank from a faucet, the hydrant on the side of the house. We even drank from the garden hose. So we didn't have to go back inside just to get a drink. We did sometime. Somebody was always cutting a watermelon when we travel around. Somebody was always, especially in the summer, cutting a watermelon. And it was a perfect treat on a hot day. And I remember most of us didn't have, the guys I was running, my friends I was running around with didn't have shirts on, or at best it was a dirty T-shirt. And we started eating a big piece of watermelon, not a little piece, like they cut it up at Publix or somewhere that, we had a whole slice of watermelon. And we were doing like this, there's probably cartoons about it, dripping all over my face and down my shirt. If you didn't have a, brown stomach and, so brown from being outside all the summer, just dripping everywhere. We'd spit the seeds at each other because you couldn't have a seed coming out because it'd grow a watermelon vine out your ear. So that's how we played. And one of the things that we played, and I'll tell you that because one of the things that we did constantly was play with our pets. Some would chase us on our bicycles. Some would throw a ball to some of them. There was a creek there where we went swimming close by my cousin's house. We'd throw the ball out in the creek, and we had a dog, a German Shepherd, that would go get it. I forget whose dog that was, but sometimes just other neighbors' dogs showed up to chase us. So they were constant companions. So the dog, we played with them for hours, as I remember growing up as a kid. My grandparents lived next door, and they had a cat. I couldn't remember the cat's name. I can't recall the cat's name, but I played with the cat nonstop too. Usually mostly at night when I was over visiting my grandparents, not during the day. And play with the cat, chasing a little toy or jumping at her and watching her jump sky high. And I would play with this cat because she would go out in the woods. She was an indoor-outdoor cat. She'd go out in the woods and catch chipmunks. Catch them, wouldn't kill them. She caught them to play. She caught them to play. The chipmunk was frozen out of fear, but then it would move a little bit and it would smack them back and keep playing with them. So I had a whole cage of chipmunks because I'd go down there and take the chipmunk away from the cat, and she'd let me have it, and then she'd go get another one. So it was that kind of play that we did. And there's all kinds of other things. So as we've gotten older, as you grow older and get an adult, your pets change. When we came here from Tennessee, we had 2 Chihuahuas. One passed away a few years after we got here, and so we said not going to get another one. Well, we did. Another Chihuahua. That was our breed at the time that we chose. So we've had Prissy, Little Bit, and Baby, and now we have a 4-year-old, 3-pound. Chris, change the slide there. A 3-pound Yorkie. And you see in the background there, she's playing with a turtle. So we've got, again, the kids love to play with this turtle. Macy, one of the kids, calls it Momar. She named it. So she plays with the turtle, and little girl doesn't really play with it. She just sniffs it and runs off. And I'm convinced that my pets, every one of them, have been special to remind me to play and to love unconditionally. We can find that in various ways. Even if you don't have a pet, you may have a neighbor or a friend that has a pet that would loan you the pet for a while, so you can experience this unconditional love that I get. Little Bit, the last one that we had to put down a little over 2 years ago. She was fading. She was getting old, and she couldn't. Chihuahuas like to jump, but she couldn't jump on up in the chair and sit with me. So when I meditated in the morning, I picked her up and put her in my lap. That was our routine. Everybody talks about you got to set a certain way, you got to be a certain mindset to meditate. Whatever's comfortable. We say that whatever's comfortable, whether you sit on a cushion or sit in a chair. Well, I sat with Little Bit. She loved it, and I loved it. And that's the way we did it for a few years. She felt the energy, and so did I. when we had to put her down, I had been debating. I couldn't decide to put her down, and I asked the vet, what should we do? So he got close to her as well, and so when we had to put her down, we both cried. That's just a part. She was such a big part of my life. Richard Rohr dedicated, I started bringing a copy of it, the Universal Christ, to his black lab, Venus. And here's what he said in the dedication. I dedicate this book to my beloved 15-year-old lab, Venus, whom I've had to release to God. While beginning to write this book, without any apology, lightweight theology, or fear of heresy, I can appropriately say that Venus was also Christ for me. If you've got pets or been around some, you know that's the truth. So last year, we added a little girl. That's the little girl up there, a 4-year-old, 3-pound Yorkie. And she's just taken over the family. She's the boss. So we play constantly. Playfulness, the time to play. The kids that are over, you hear me talk about the kids all the time. They're always there. And she chases them as they jump between the chairs and the sofa. And she's just so sweet. Last night, even, we had the kids over, two of the grandkids. Their mom and dad, our granddaughter wanted to go text us and said, can we have a date night? Can you watch the kids while we have a date night? And said yes, so came on over. So Macy in that picture right there, the blonde-headed, is one of them. I didn't take a picture. I didn't show you a picture of Bo, the little boy. But so they were getting sleepy. It was getting late. We weren't sure whether the mom and dad were going to come back or they were going to sleep with us. So we started playing with the little girl on the floor, and she loves that. Well, so both of us, the three of us, started settling down, because when I make a pallet on the floor for them, I usually get on the floor with them. And so we were there, and they were kind of dozing in and out, watching something on TV. Well, of course, I go to sleep quicker. Well, I wake up with a tickle on my nose, and I look up, and the little girl's right here. Just right here. That's the way she is. She's just part of the family and part of all of us. So I'm sharing about pets, kind of on and on and on, if you gather, because it's our human desire to play. They are easy to play with, and that's why we talk about them so easily. It's spiritual practice, as we talk about in here, and as Richard Rohr talks about his 17-year-old chocolate lab releasing to God, but without any apology, that dog was the Christ to him. And that was a theme throughout his book, The Universal Christ, is that animals are the Christ. Everything is the Christ. And he promoted that. But we have similar experiences when we see a newborn baby, some of us, or a beautiful sunset across the water. We live here, the great sunsets here. We have them all the time, or sunrise. Or just the picture, a perfect picture of the moon that comes out. The moon came out, it was full moon not long ago, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And in that moment, there's an experience of awe and wonder that is a transcendent experience for me of the divine, of the universe, of the ground of being. Use God if you want to. It's a common experience, different experiences, but we share that transcendent experience. Now, it's totally different than what we've learned in traditional religion. When we say, and I know a lot of us, I've had it too, generate some angst when we talk about, use the word God. When we mouth, it's just a word, but when we mouth it in the sense of, reward and punishment, some God, and then interpreted through religion, is going to punish us or tell us what to do with dogmas and creeds, and it's somebody, whether it's a supernatural being or whatever, are punishing us. That's not what that is. That God moment, that transcendent moment, is transcendent experience. We can all experience this, quote, God experience. And that's what's causing the increase right now in what we call nuns. Spiritual but not religious. That's what's happening in our country. In the world, it's happening. I was reading a book, I read a lot of stuff, so even atheists can sit with any of us and have a transcendent experience like that and agree to call this experience God. Non-secular spirituality, secular spirituality. It doesn't have to be tied up in religion. It gets us all knotted up when it does. So we learn about these transcendent experiences with our playtime. Not just our pets, but with incredible awe and wonder of the place we have in the universe. In New Thought and Unity, we teach that Jesus is the way shower. Richard Rohr, in the book, The Universal Christ, says, Jesus is not God. Jesus is the Christ, and so are each one of us. So here's a quote from Ram Dass that says it even better. I don't know if you'll be able to read that. It's kind of small, but I'll read it to you. I think, this is Ram Dass, if you know who he is. I think of Jesus as a storyline, and I think of Christ as that consciousness or that love that is the same as the Buddha mind or pure awareness or Brahma. To say that Jesus is the only way is a perversion. To say that Christ is the only way is a certainty. We are all the Christ, and it's the only way. We are all the Christ, and it's the only way. Now and always is a time to play, to experience the awe and wonder of the universe and this thing we call the divine, or again, the whole universe. So this week I invite you to affirm your playfulness as a part of your spiritual practice. And Melissa actually found this quote from the Daily Word in 2018. Playfulness is a part of my spiritual practice. So please pray and experience this awe and wonder beyond something that we ever can do together. Whether it's, I remember looking at the Grand Canyon for the first time, and it's just, a picture doesn't work. When you see it, it's just, it's amazing what it does to you. And that's just an example, another example. So play, whatever you do, go out and play so you can experience this awe and wonder of who and what we are and where we live. Namaste.
Thank you again, Reverend Ron. That was fantastic. Wasn't that great? I can remember playing outside, actually past dark. Great time to play hide and seek back then. So it was. And some of us have been dancing lately. So that's cool too. So yay. Thank you again. So now it's time to enter into generosity consciousness. Thank you to everyone who has continued to bless this community with your tithes and your offerings, because we would not be here were it not for that. So, if you feel led by Spirit today, we invite you to prepare your gift now. And if you're led to make an online gift today, donation, you can use the QR code that we now have, or visit our website. Now, if you'd like to make a continuing tithe or donation to the church, you can work with that with your financial institution, or also do that via PayPal. But right now, we invite you to hold the thought of your gift in your mind and your heart as we say the offering blessing that's on the screen. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. Thank you so much.
I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. Hey, hey, hey. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. Hey, hey, hey. In these moments I am given. In situations called to me, I now choose the path of living. I now choose what sets me free. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. Hey, hey, hey. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. Hey, hey, hey. In these moments I am given. In situations called to me, I now choose the path of living. I now choose what sets me free. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. Hey, hey, hey. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. Hey, hey, hey. In these moments I am given. In situations called to me, I now choose the path of living. I now choose what sets me free. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. Hey, hey, hey. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. I do what gives me life. Hey, hey, hey.